Also, please join me in welcoming our last speaker this morning, Mr. Joey Hatch. Joey is the co-chief operating officer for Skanska. Is that pronounced right? Skanska? All right. I was studying that all morning. It was like Skanska, overseeing the Central U.S. operations and the National Healthcare Center for Excellence. Joey has experience in over 150 healthcare projects nationwide totaling over $3 billion. Yet he still finds time to be very active in our community with his family. Joey has been married to Debbie for 37 years. That's awesome. That's great. I've been married 17 years, and I'm like, that's cool. Sorry, I don't mean to embarrass you. And has 2 grown daughters and 3 grandchildren. So thank you from the Kevin Carter Foundation, and please join me in welcoming Joey Hatch.
So as I prayed for strength to get up here in front of this crowd today and tell our story, I never knew where that strength was going to come from until just a few minutes ago when I watched Rose get up here. So Rose, thank you for being an inspiration to me. I'm pretty sure I won't do it as well as she did, but thanks. So I'm sure some of you are wondering, what's a man doing up in front of a group like this talking about domestic violence for? Well, I'll tell you that when domestic violence occurs, it impacts everyone. It impacts the whole family. So I've got a story to tell about my youngest daughter. And she's here with me this morning, so I'm glad she's going to hear this. 2 years ago, about 8:30 one morning while working on the road, I got a call from my wife, Debbie. I've worked on the road for the last 32 years, so I always take the calls when my wife or my daughter calls. I stepped out of a meeting that I was in to take the call, and that moment, our life changed. Debbie told me Shannon is missing and we can't find her. Now, I can tell you when you've got young daughters, 25-year-old daughters, when you hear that, what goes through your mind is probably you're not going to see them again. So that's what was going through my mind. What followed was the most terrifying time of our life. Before I get into the details of that day, I want to tell you a little bit about our family. We have the perfect family. At the time, Debbie and I had been married for 35 years, 2 grown daughters, both college graduates. They had gone to David Lipscomb Middle School and high school. And again, at the time, we had 2 beautiful granddaughters. We had the perfect family. So why should someone that has the perfect family be concerned about domestic violence? Our youngest daughter, Shannon, is an amazing person, nearly 25 at the time. She was living in Knoxville after graduating from the University of Tennessee. She had 2 jobs so she could pay her own bills. Shannon had always been an independent and resilient kid growing up. She made her own way in life without just following the crowd. She's pretty, confident, loving, outgoing, funny, and completely in charge of her life, or so we thought. When I finally arrived in Knoxville after traveling from the Detroit area, which is pretty hard to get from Knoxville from Detroit, when I finally arrived that evening, I walked outside the airport. It was raining. And there were Shannon and Debbie. We had found her, and we stood there in the rain, and we hugged and cried for a few minutes. What we found out was that Shannon was not physically hurt, but she was not okay. We spent the next 3 days in a hotel room together trying to figure out from her what had happened. I talked to my daughters, both of them, several times a week. I'm always sure to ask how they're doing, so if anything's not going right in their world, I'm going to know about it, right? Well, Shannon had been dating a fella for about 2 years, and we had been around him many times. He was a bright, energetic, respectful young man, and we were approving parents. Abusers can be likable folks. We knew this guy, but we didn't really know him. What we found out in the next 48 hours was that he was in complete control of her life. He took our daughter and isolated her. He administered a carefully laid out plan of emotional abuse, controlling behavior, demeaning language that had completely broken her down and killed her spirit. He told her what to wear, how much makeup to put on, what to eat, and what friends to have. She never saw this coming. She woke up one day and this guy owned her and everything she did in life. Her final cry for help the night before she went missing was to tell her best friend how bad her life was and how she wanted to get out, but she didn't know what to do. So we helped her take back control of her life and rescued her from this situation. I did what any father would do. I stepped away from my work. I took a 3-week leave of absence and I stayed in Knoxville. We had to make sure that she would be safe as she tried to unwind her life and move back to Nashville. I saw Shannon several times every day to make sure everything was going okay and that she was safe. We got her back home and started the healing process. It can be a long intervention and healing period. She got professional help. She spent a lot of time with the family. She eventually got back on her own, and slowly but surely, she regained her confidence. This was a much longer, harder process than we had anticipated. There were several low points over the next year, but she got back to being the beautiful, confident young lady that we love and are so proud of. I wanted to share this story with you because domestic abuse has no boundaries for age, race, education level, or for specific category that we try to put it in. It can happen to anyone, and it may be happening to someone in the audience today. The YWCA does so much to help victims of domestic abuse, and they can do more if we help them. I wish I had known about the Y when we were going through this with Shannon. They need your help to continue the great work they do and to do even more. You've heard this statistic a couple of times. 1 in 4 women will experience domestic violence at some point in their life. So if statistics hold true, that could be over 100 women in the room today. Check in with the women you love regularly. Stay more engaged with your daughters, and trust your gut. Call the YWCA. You can't all take a 3-week leave of absence from work, but you can all write a check. The next person the Y saves may be your friend, your neighbor, or even that beautiful daughter you love more than life itself. After all, it's always someone's daughter.
Thank you, Joey, and thank you, Shannon. It's not easy to stand up here, and we really appreciate the fact that you were willing to share such a personal and important story.